Welcome to Listening to UCR, a podcast production by the Faculty Welfare Committee of the Department of Statistics at the University of California, Riverside. My name is Daniel Jeske, and my co-host is Esra Kurum. Our guest on this podcast is Dr. James Rosenberger, the director of the National Institute of Statistical Sciences. Dr. Rosenberger obtained his PhD in statistics from Cornell University. He was a professor at the Penn State University Department of Statistics, and for a long time was the chair of the department. He was also a prominent figure in the department's Statistical Consulting Center. 9 months ago, he accepted his current position as director of the National Institute of Statistical Sciences, which is more simply known as NIST.
Hello, Jim. Thank you for joining us for our podcast series.
Jim, what was the point in your career where you became associated with NIST, and how did that transpire?
I had served on the board of NIST as the COPS representative for quite a few years. In that capacity, I was familiar with some of NIST's activities.
What's the COPS acronym? What does that stand for?
Committee of Presidents of Statistical Societies.
So you were sort of representing that COPS committee as a member of the NIST board?
That's correct. The NIST board is made up of representatives from 10 different organizations, plus additional members who are elected by the board.
You've been involved with ASA in a lot of different ways. It sounds like that opened up the door for your association with NIST.
That's true. I mean, I was connected with ASA in multiple ways, serving as a volunteer on committees. And then when you and I overlapped on the board, I was serving 3 years as a vice president of ASA.
So you mentioned that NIST board is made of 10 organizations. Is SAMC one of them? Does SAMC have anyone in the NIST board?
SAMC is not part of the NIST board. SAMC is an institute funded by National Science Foundation. The grant was held by 4 organizations, the 3 universities in North Carolina, UNC, NCSU, and Duke, plus NIST. So NIST was one of the organizations that was part of the principal investigator team that resulted in SAMC being funded. But SAMC in July of 2017 moved out of the NIST building.
Besides you, how many people are formally attached to NIST in sort of like a leadership role?
It's a small organization. I serve as director. Nell Sadrantz, who was the director, continues to serve as the director of the DC office. We have an assistant director here, Lingzhao Xu, who is part-time. And earlier, David Banks was an assistant director working out of Duke. He resigned that position when he took the directorship of SAMC just 3 months ago. In addition, we have several staff members in Washington, D.C. now. They used to be in North Carolina, a financial person, a head administrative person. These are both only serving in the last several years because the former staff in North Carolina retired. And then in addition to that, we have about 5 or 6 other professionals, either research associates or postdoc working in agencies in Washington.
Besides NIST, the other big organizations you kept mentioning is ASA. What is the difference between NIST and ASA then?
That is a good question because I think our missions are somewhat related, but we're really very, very different in terms of our mission. ASA is a professional society of statisticians. Its mission, it has members, individual members. And one of its major functions is holding and managing conferences and workshops. Conferences like the Joint Statistical Meetings, CSP, the Conference on Statistical Practice, and a number of others. They actually manage now, the ASA manages and provides the logistics for the Women in Statistics and Data Science conferences that have been held recently. And beginning just this year, they will be handling the logistics for the Symposium on Data Science and Statistics. This is an organization whose mission has been to provide research, expert panels, to bring together different sectors of the profession.
Jim, when you make connections like that, does the role of NIST then sort of absolve itself after those people meet and talk and start working together, or does NIST somehow stay involved?
It varies. We sometimes create a workshop which invites people from government, industry, and academia to come together and address a particular problem. Then they sometimes form working groups. They may write a white paper at the end. And so NIST continues to be involved, but is not the only player. That in that sense, there is some similarity between what ASA does and what NIST does and has done in the past. And that is bring groups together to address issues that relate to statistics or statistical sciences.
For academics to benefit from that marrying mission of NIST, their institution needs to be an affiliate of NIST, a formal sort of member of the organization. Is that true?
Many things that we do, we would make them open to the public, and affiliates would get an earlier invitation, get a guaranteed seat in the event, or get a reduced entry price if it's something like a workshop or a training session. You had one recently at Riverside where, because you were in this affiliate, the rate was less than it would have been for the public, for non-affiliates.
So just to clarify, your organization needs to become a member of NIST for you to take advantage of all these benefits, right? Individuals can't become NIST members.
That is correct. NIST is not a membership organization, so individuals do not become a member of NIST. It's their institution, and if it's academic, it would typically be a department. And if it's a government agency, it would typically be some office or division within that agency.
And are the fees that affiliates pay, is that like the primary cash flow into NIST to support all the work that it does, or is there a government funding channel as well?
The NIST affiliate fees are actually a relatively small part, but are designed to support the affiliate activity that we do. The other major component of income that NIST has is through research contracts and other contracts we have with government agencies. I'll mention an example. We have longer term relationships with two agencies. One is the National Agriculture Statistical Service, and the other is the National Center for Education Statistics. Those two organizations, which are affiliated with the Department of Education and the Department of Agriculture, they have research contracts with NIST. We put postdocs in their organizations to work on some of the research problems that they have. And we also conduct panels for them, which bring in expertise from various places, not within the agency, but often from other agencies or in particular from academic institutions to address a particular problem. One recent example I'll give you is the Department of Education wanted to assess the effectiveness of some of their program. And so they didn't want to do it in-house because they wanted to have an independent review of what they were doing. So it was important that the panel put together was viewed very unbiased, and therefore NIST could come in as an outside organization and provide that independent assessment. The role of NIST as a trusted outside independent organization is one that we hold very high and try to preserve.
Was that panel sort of like a line item in the long-term contract that you mentioned you have with the Department of Education?
That's right.
In general, for those long-term contracts that are renewed probably on a regular basis, who really in charge of seeing that the work gets done and scoping out even the work? Is that like your job as the director?
So the two long-term projects we've had, Nels Sadransk is now the primary on those projects. The postdocs working on those projects typically will have two supervisors, someone in the agency who they might be working closely with, and also someone outside the agency. In a number of cases, it would be Nels Sadransk herself. In other projects, we would contract with someone outside the agency, outside of NIST, as a consultant. It might be short-term, 3 to 6 months, or it could be multi-year. It could be like 1 or 2 years.
Do you want to say something about the overall health of that model for NIST? How's NIST doing?
There are a couple aspects of that. I would say, first of all, given the current climate in Washington, it's kind of a risky time. You know, the government has not been as forthcoming with research funding in a number of areas. The other aspect that has caused NIST some recent stress was the separation of SAMC from NIS after NIS had expanded the building to accommodate SAMC. So that, in my view, has been a very unfortunate development.
Did the long-term contracts that you were mentioning earlier stay with NIS at least?
The SAMC grant itself did not, no. So that is being handled by Duke University, and NIS has no benefit from it whatsoever. We continue to interact with SAMC. If we can do joint projects, we're happy to do it.
Is there also a sabbatical program that NIS offers to faculty thinking about that as an option?
I will say yes and no. When we had the building in North Carolina as a hub for SAMC activities and NIS activities, that was a very welcoming place for people to spend sabbatical time. And a number of people have done that. The moment with our situation in Washington, D.C., unless someone has a connection with a particular project, we really are not in a position to provide the setting that we used to be able to provide. Having said that, I've just talked to someone recently who's looking for a sabbatical, and I said, look, one possible option for him would be to spend time in a company that we've been interested in talking with as far as being a NIS affiliate. So again, connections with industry can open doors for sabbatical opportunities. I should say we do not have funding to give someone, but when someone's on sabbatical, they typically have some funding. And if they want to get involved in one of the projects that NIS is involved in, that could provide some additional funding. Just as I mentioned, we had contracts for bringing expertise in on certain projects.
So rather than going to the former building of NIS in North Carolina, they might find space in one of the companies that is either already an affiliate or that you hope would become one.
Or one of the government agencies.
So then one of the advantages of being a NIS affiliate is these connections, as you said. What other benefits that NIS provides to academics and industry and government?
The benefit, as I like to represent it to academics, is being a NIS affiliate ties you to this national organization. Most universities oftentimes do not have strong contacts with organizations outside their university. That is something that most institutions like to foster. Deans like to be involved in outreach. NSF, when they fund grants, they want to see outreach to, beyond the immediate researchers working on the project. NIS can provide opportunities for that through the various workshops.
And I would say, too, from the academic side, the affiliate membership gives departments an opportunity for younger faculty to get involved with more senior faculty and show something in the way of leadership that's very important as they mature into the ranks of associate and full professor.
Exactly. I mean, through attending the NIS affiliate committee meetings, I actually learned a lot about leadership and how the organizations ran. And it's also a good networking opportunity because for assistant professors, it's important to, as you said, know the senior faculty. And this is a great opportunity for that.
Yeah. I must say that's what I'm struggling to communicate better. So I welcome this opportunity to discuss it with you in this format because I think we probably haven't gotten that message out as well as we should. What I want to do is make sure every affiliate has the NIS logo with a link to the NIS website on your website. I don't know if you do. I should have checked before we opened this conversation, but
we'll check later and fix it.
Okay. I can give you a NIS icon or that goes on your website and it would be linked right to what's happening at NIS. So I think that would be one way. Another thought we had is every affiliate should have something that you can hang on your department head's wall that says our department is a member of NIS.
It may be bumper stickers for all the faculty.
Now you're pushing me beyond what I've even thought about. Yeah, okay. Thank you, David. Good idea.
That was a quick one in my car.
NIS affiliate on board.
Exactly. Oh, I want a special one. NIS liaison.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
There you go. Okay. Well, we'll have to work on that.
Jim, I know that the origins of NIST was sort of Washington, D.C. Beltway collaborations, maybe a lot of statistical work and sampling, survey methodology. You mentioned earlier imputation and missing data. I think NIST went a long way with expertise in those areas. Do you think it's much broader than that?
Yeah, I think you're right. We've done lots of work in those areas, particularly sampling is one area we did quite a bit of work on. What is perhaps new or becoming ever more important is the fact that just because you have a lot of data doesn't mean you have much quality and doesn't mean that information you derive from those data are in any proper sense representative of the population you want to represent. So I think as data get bigger and more easily available to researchers, it's becoming ever more important that statistical ideas are maintained, are part of the evaluation of those data to, understand its reliability, its uncertainty, and then most important, perhaps the biases that can creep in because of the way the data were collected.
I think that's a great way to put it, because it seems that data science is becoming a more of a vague term, really, because everybody is using it for anything and forgetting the role of statistics. Really, people think it's more computer science and data management, but they forget the role of statistics actually in getting the right information out of this and making the right inference.
It's probably one of the least understood terms of what data science umbrella is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. And we see it as our mission. And this has been discussed at the board level several times. And that is to continue to think about how statistics needs to play an important role in data science. How we do that, I don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to keep that idea focused.
I think that you've mentioned in some of your vision statements, you would like to maybe grow the organization outside of the Washington, D.C. kind of confines and maybe have like a NIST presence on the West Coast, right?
Right. 9 months ago when I started, I had this pretty big scheme idea that NIST should be a multi-hub organization. And I haven't given up on that. It's just taking longer than I had originally thought to pull it off. But yeah, we are talking to people in Boston and New York City. And when we brought you folks on board, it was to have a West Coast presence. And what we haven't figured out quite is how to structure a hub in some location that in some sense is self-organizing. The primary way I think that can happen is organize workshops which attract people locally. If you look on our website, we have a number of these in the Southeast.
What sort of visibility do you have at JSM and CSP?
At CSP and at JSM, we have had a booth in the exhibit hall. We also did that at the Women in Statistics.
Do you organize sessions at all at these conferences?
We have 2 sessions at the symposium. One is on combining traditional survey data with other sources of big data or administrative records. And the other session is focused on the activities that the postdocs are doing at the National Center for Education Statistics and the National Agriculture Statistical Service. JSM, we have at least 3 sessions that we've organized.
And there's a writing workshop at JSM, right?
Thank you. That's right. That's one of the activities that hopefully you've seen some publicity about. That will be held all day on Sundays.
How would a graduate student find out about a postdoc opportunity with NIST?
As we get opportunities known to us, we will advertise for postdocs just like a university would. We're about to do that. Our own website has a job place that you can look for, and we will advertise it there. What we also do is then send out email to department heads, to NIST affiliates, and we also have about 3,000 Twitter followers. We'll send out a tweet mentioning opportunities and pointing to the website.
Is there 1 or 2 or 3 particular research areas, or is it really wide open?
At the moment, the focus for most of the postdocs that are working is related to these 2 organizations, agriculture and education. They are working on some specific issues related to quality of surveys. We are working with another agency which just became an affiliate this year, and that's the Energy Information Agency. And they also, are trying to develop new technologies to exploit existing data set that did not used to be available. And I'll just give one example. It'll be the topic of one of our talks at the symposium in Virginia. You may have heard of Gas Buddy. It's an app on your phone that lets you check the price of gas in wherever you are. It's kind of like crowdsourcing. You know, if you have the app on your phone, you can see what the price of gas is around you. You can also put in the price of gas at a particular gas station. So it's a way of collecting data in real time. And so the agency is looking at that data, which is available to the public. You can scrape the web and get it. That's an example of how new technologies can provide information in a much more timely way and a much more cost-effective way than doing a traditional survey. So those are the kind of, I'll say, cutting edge challenges that we would be happy to place a postdoc in and work on some of the detailed issues that come up in dealing with new data sources.
Well, Jim, it seems to us that your background and experience is ideally suited for being the director of NIST, the National Institute of Statistical Sciences, and we're really glad you're in the chair and wish you the best with it.
Well, I appreciate that. Some days the challenges look pretty daunting. There's no shortage of them.
Thank you for actually making this more visible and reaching out to most of the universities, government, and industry. And as a junior faculty, I'm really getting a lot of help and guidance from this, really.
I'm very glad to hear that, and I do hope to be able to extend this to other institutions. I think there are many academic institutions that I think would benefit from being part of the network.
And the UCR affiliate is here to help.
Very good. I do appreciate that, both of you. But yes, thank you, Esra, and thank you, Dan, for part in helping to move this mission forward.
Nice talking to you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay.